Welcome to a new fragrance review. Today we're going to talk about the 7 fragrance family. So today's video will be a little bit different than how it is usually, and we're going to try to make it nice anyway. And really I want to talk about this because I think it's important to know about this, that the notes are important to know, and to know what you would like or not in fragrance, but it's also good to know a little bit more around the families. And there's something that I see a lot is people that are mixing fragrance family and fragrance note as being one thing, when in fact they're two things completely different. They are somewhat related, but they're not quite the same. And some fragrance family might seem to have a link with some note family or a category of notes, but still they are different. Okay, so right now, please reframe this so it only shows the white frame or something. I don't know how to explain this. I don't know if you see my mouse, but inside the picture here, there will be other picture like this. So even though like this one you only see a square, have them like being all the shape of this one, so things that are around are cut. So there's something you might have seen already, and it's this little picture that talk about the fragrance. They say it's fragrance family, and this is super wrong for only one reason. The letter category is, or family is not at all a family. It's nothing. It's like, it might be a subcategory of other fragrance. It can be like subcategory of Oriental or ship. But it's not a family on itself. I don't know why people do this. I think it makes it better looking when it's 8, so they kind of invent a letter family. And also there are letters that the fragrance is really dominant, but at the same time there are other notes that are really dominant and that are not represented there. Like aquatic fragrance are actually an aromatic fragrance, but it's not on that wheel. But aquatic, it's super synthetic, and it's not what aromatic technically is, which is in French. It comes from French, of course, as every name there, or mostly, and it's an aromat, which is thing that give taste, like lavender, pepper, thyme, herbs like this. This is where aromatic name come from. But still, aquatic is part of the aromatic family, and it doesn't have its own family in that wheel, but leather does. So I don't think leather actually is a family. And I wanted to just start with this at first. Another thing you might see here is this thing. It's good. It talks about the different category or subcategory of notes, and I would say I don't think it's really well made, because, for example, aromatic, green, and water are technically in the same category, and citrus is not in one of those categories. But apart from that, I would say that basically it's good, but it doesn't any represent the 7 main fragrance family. So the first fragrance family is aromatic. I already talked about it. Aquatic fragrance are included in that category. Basically, that style of fragrance started in Europe, and it's in a position with the other style that is Oriental. It was in the old time, you couldn't have all those ingredients that they had in Orient or in Asia or Middle East, and they had to take stuff that were growing in Europe. So those fragrances basically are having ingredients that are with stuff that you find in Europe. It doesn't have to only include stuff that you can find in Europe, but basically this is where it started. And mostly stuff they were using in aromatic were things like thyme, basil, herbs that you would put in food, and other herbs that are more only for the smell. And aromatic would be including the fragrance with those ingredients, but also it includes aquatic. I don't know exactly how it includes aquatic, why it's part of aromatic, but aquatic is part of aromatic. Maybe mostly because it's used mainly with aromatic ingredient, usually, though it's often used with citrus also. Second fragrance family is citrus fragrance. And citrus fragrance, a lot of cologne or eau de cologne are usually made with citrus. I took Neroli Portofino as an example for the fragrance, and I think it's an example, but maybe the older eau de cologne fragrance would be a better example of citrus fragrance. But basically, it's simple. Citrus fragrance are fragrance that are mostly smelling citrus and that are not smelling something else. An example that wouldn't be a citrus fragrance would be Habit Rouge. Habit Rouge smell lemon a lot, but it's not a citrus fragrance. It's an Oriental fragrance. It just happened that there's a strong citrus note. A citrus fragrance would be mainly all you will smell would be citrus. Third fragrance family, it's Chypre, and the picture I took now, it's Chypre by Coty, and basically this is the first fragrance that is Chypre. I never smelled it. It's discontinued since years, but it's still the fragrance that made the whole style of that fragrance, that whole family. And basically, I see a lot of people mixing this one and the Fougère. So this one, I would explain it. It's a citrus top, usually bergamot, maybe lemon. Could be other citrus than these two, but usually this is what I see. Then there will be a heart that is floral. Usually it might be jasmine, but it might be other flower. It might not even be exotic flower, but it would technically be exotic flower in the main way to make it. And it will have an animalic or mossy base. And this is where leather fragrance, the leather subtype, like, I don't think it's a subtype, because if you take a fragrance that have a citrus top, let's say bergamot top, jasmine heart, and leather base, it will be a Chypre. But people will call it a leather fragrance, even though it's not quite a leather fragrance, it's a Chypre fragrance. So leather, it's a note used in Chypre. Usually what you will see, it's bergamot as a top, jasmine in the heart, and oak moss or labdanum in the base. This is what traditionally it is, but it can be many other things. Then there are floral fragrance, and the floral family, it's pretty simple. It's a fragrance that smells flowers. And this is again one of those fragrances that are not quite the family, sometimes that is part of the family. For example, a Chypre fragrance have flower in it, so it doesn't mean it's a floral fragrance, but if the notes are dominant, it's a floral fragrance. Then there's the Fougère family, and Fougère, you might have heard about it already. And this fragrance, it's Fougère Royale, and the Fougère have its name because of this fragrance. Basically, a Fougère, what it would be, an aromatic top that is usually lavender, would have floral heart, which is usually geranium, and it will have a base that will be woody or in the wood family, and maybe oak moss and coumarin. Traditionally it's coumarin, even though coumarin now it's not seen as quite a woody note. At the time it was made, it was seen as a woody note. Fougère Royale is also the first fragrance that ever used, first of all, coumarin and any synthetic notes in perfumery. Before this fragrance, there was no synthetic notes in perfumery. Someone else that I heard talking about Fougère said that Fougère, it's also fragrance that will smell the forest. Like, doesn't smell only the trees, but the whole forest. Next category, it's Oriental. And Oriental, Habit Rouge, it's the example I use because it's the first Oriental that was made for men. Before, Oriental fragrance were more for women. And about that fragrance family, nowadays I see a lot of people calling it the Amber family or the Amber Spice family. And I think both of them are wrong. A good example of that would be Tobacco Vanille by Tom Ford, which is having tobacco and vanilla, that's predominant note. It's an Oriental fragrance. Habit Rouge also would be a good example, which have sandalwood, lemon, it has benzoin, it has everything but amber and spices in it. So I think people, they are getting offended or something by the name Oriental, which I don't get why. It's like the style of, this is what I was saying in the beginning. There's aromatic and Oriental. They are like those two main styles that there was in older time before Fuji, Ship, and all of this. And basically, you couldn't get stuff from Europe really easily to make perfume in the Oriental country, or like Middle East or Asia. And at the opposite, you couldn't easily have Middle East or Asian ingredient for perfumery. In those times. So those two family really came from that. So saying that an Oriental fragrance, that it's with the style of Orient, it doesn't make sense for me that it become like something you shouldn't say or anything. So the 7 fragrance family is woody, and woody fragrance is pretty simple. It's fragrance that use woody notes mainly. Example of woody note would be sandalwood, oak moss, vetiver, or you pretty much know what wood is. So if fragrance have notes of some wood that you know that are the most dominant note, would be a woody fragrance. And I will come back with the first picture, which is talking about that little wheel. And I said that there's many things that are wrong and talk about the letter. But another thing that is wrong is that fragrance, most of the time they're using more than one family. It's not woody only, it's not aromatic only, it's not Oriental only. You see, in the 70s, there was a lot of aromatic fougères, for example, which are one against the other in the wheel. And an Oriental floral also, like Black Orchid by Tom Ford, it's an Oriental floral fragrance. So that wheel kind of say that there's only one type of fragrance, but usually fragrance share 2 types, because no fragrance is truly one style of fragrance. And I'm saying that, but some would be. Citrus would be a good example of fragrance that are not mostly only this, and Fuji or Oriental are example of fragrance that are mostly only this. And basically those families are made for one thing, for you to have an idea of the composition and have an idea of like the whole fragrance, how it is. Because of course it takes the note and everything, but if you know that the fragrance have like those notes and like that X set of notes, and you see that it's a woody fragrance, you'll get that it's the most woody notes of the list that will be the most prominent. Or if you have the same note breakdown and you see it's a floral fragrance, you'll see that, oh yeah, it's gonna be smelling flowers. Most of the floral notes will be what will be present. Or if you see it's a ship, you'll see that the fragrance probably won't be linear, and you'll see like different phase into the fragrance. And it's not like the most efficient way of seeing it, but it still is a good indicator of the style of the fragrance at least. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was really instructive. If you enjoyed, well, like and share. And if you enjoyed the video, also subscribe if you want to see more like this. So also, if you have other question, write in the comment. I'd be really happy to answer to you. So thanks for watching, and see you soon.